The music stops. 70,000 voices fall silent. Michael Jackson stands motionless at the microphone, his sequined glove catching the spotlight. His eyes lock onto something in the crowd. Without a word, without warning, he steps down from the stage. The security guards freeze. The band members exchange confused glances. The audience holds its breath as the king of pop walks directly into the sea of people, his fedora casting shadows across his face. He's searching. Looking for someone. Someone specific. Then he finds them. A small figure in the crowd. A child. And what happens next will leave 70,000 people in tears and change Michael Jackson forever. But how did we get here? How did the biggest pop star in the world end up abandoning his performance to embrace a stranger? The answer lies 3 hours earlier, backstage at Wembley Stadium, where Michael Jackson was about to discover that sometimes the most powerful performance happens when you stop performing altogether. July 16, 1988. Wembley Stadium, London. The Bad World Tour was already being hailed as the concert event of the decade. Michael Jackson was at the absolute peak of his powers, Thriller had made him the biggest star on the planet, and Bad was cementing his legacy as the undisputed king of pop. Tonight's show was sold out, 72,000 people crammed into every corner of the iconic stadium. But backstage, in the quiet moments before the show, Michael wasn't thinking about breaking records or entertaining thousands. He was reading a letter. The letter had arrived that morning, hand-delivered by stadium security. It was written in shaky handwriting on hospital letterhead from Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. The words were simple, heartbreaking, and impossible to ignore. Dear Mr. Jackson, my name is Sarah. I am 8 years old and I have leukemia. The doctors say I might not have much time left, but I wanted to tell you that your music makes me feel better when I'm scared. My biggest dream is to see you perform, but I'm too sick to come to your concert. I just wanted you to know that you are my hero. Love, Sarah. Michael read the letter 3 times. His hands trembled slightly as he folded it carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket. Around him, his team was bustling with pre-show preparations, checking microphones, coordinating lighting cues, running through the setlist one final time. But Michael had stopped listening to any of it. Frank, he called to his tour manager, I need you to do something for me. What Michael asked for next would set in motion a chain of events that nobody in that stadium was prepared for. He didn't just want to send Sarah an autograph or a get-well card. He wanted to bring her to the concert. Tonight. Now. Michael, she's in the hospital, Frank explained gently. The kid is seriously ill. Even if the doctors would allow it, the logistics alone. Make it happen, Michael said quietly, but with unmistakable authority. I don't care what it takes. Get her here. And so began one of the most extraordinary behind-the-scenes efforts in concert history. While Michael performed his sound check, a convoy of vehicles was already en route to Great Ormond Street Hospital. Doctors, nurses, Sarah's parents, and a full medical team began the complex process of preparing an 8-year-old cancer patient for what might be the last adventure of her life. By 7 p.m., as thousands of fans were streaming into Wembley Stadium, Sarah was being carefully transported in a special medical ambulance, accompanied by her favorite teddy bear and more medical equipment than some people see in a lifetime. The concert began as planned. Michael exploded onto the stage with "Wanna Be Startin' Somethin'," sending the crowd into a frenzy that could be heard for miles around London. The energy was electric, the performance flawless. Song after song, Michael delivered exactly what 72,000 people had paid to see, the greatest entertainer in the world at his absolute best. But throughout the performance, he kept glancing toward a special area that had been cordoned off near the stage, a small section where Sarah sat in a wheelchair, oxygen tank beside her, eyes wide with wonder as she watched her hero command the stage. The show progressed through all the hits. The Way You Make Me Feel, Smooth Criminal, Billie Jean, each one performed with Michael's signature precision and passion. But as the night wore on, something was building inside him. Every time he caught sight of Sarah in the crowd, singing along despite her labored breathing, he felt something shift. Then came Man in the Mirror. Michael positioned himself at the center of the stage, the spotlight forming a perfect circle around him. This was always one of the most powerful moments in any Michael Jackson concert, a song about change, about making a difference, about looking inside yourself and deciding to be better. But tonight, as he began to sing, his eyes found Sarah again. She was trying to stand up from her wheelchair, her tiny hands gripping the arms as she struggled to get closer to the music, to the moment, to him. Her mother was gently trying to get her to sit back down, but Sarah was determined. She wanted to stand for her hero. Michael saw this. The entire audience of 72,000 people saw this. But Michael was the only one who truly understood what he was witnessing. And that's when Michael Jackson did something that no one, not his band, not his crew, not his security team, was expecting. He stopped singing. Right in the middle of Man in the Mirror. The music continued for a few more bars before the band realized what was happening and gradually brought the song to a halt. 72,000 people fell silent, confused, wondering if something was wrong with the sound system or if this was part of the show. Michael removed his microphone from the stand and looked directly at Sarah. Then, without any explanation to the bewildered crowd, he began walking toward the edge of the stage. The security guards moved to intercept him. This wasn't part of any plan they'd been briefed on. But Michael held up his hand, and something in his expression made them step aside. He descended the steps at the side of the stage and walked directly into the audience. 72,000 people watched in stunned silence as Michael Jackson, the king of pop, made his way through the crowd. People reached out to touch him as he passed, but he was focused entirely on one destination. When he reached Sarah's section, he knelt down beside her wheelchair. What happened next was captured by countless cameras but can never truly be conveyed through any photograph or video. Michael took Sarah's small hand in his sequined glove and looked directly into her eyes. No words were spoken at first. None were needed. Sarah's mother later described the moment. Sarah just stared at him like she couldn't believe he was real. And Michael looked at her like she was the only person in the entire stadium. He whispered something in her ear that made her giggle, the first time she'd laughed in weeks. Then Michael did something that transformed the entire concert experience. He carefully helped Sarah to her feet and, with her permission, lifted her into his arms. Together, they walked back toward the stage. The crowd didn't know how to react at first. Then someone started clapping. Then another person joined in. Within seconds, all 72,000 people were on their feet, applauding not for a performance, but for a moment of pure human connection. Michael carried Sarah onto the stage and placed her gently in a chair that a crew member quickly brought out. He took his microphone and addressed the crowd for the first time since stopping the show. "This is Sarah," he said simply. "She's braver than anyone I know. And tonight, she's going to help me finish this song." What followed was unlike anything anyone in that stadium had ever experienced. Michael began Man in the Mirror again, but this time he wasn't just performing it, he was living it. As he sang about making a change, about being the man in the mirror, he was demonstrating exactly what those words meant. Sarah couldn't sing along, her breathing was too labored, but she didn't need to. Her presence on that stage said everything. When Michael reached the climactic, "Make that change," he turned to Sarah and placed his hand over his heart, then pointed to her, then to the crowd. The entire stadium erupted. Not the usual concert cheer, but something deeper. Something that acknowledged they had just witnessed a moment that transcended entertainment and entered the realm of pure human compassion. But the most incredible part of this story was still to come. After the song ended, Michael did something that even his closest friends and family would later describe as typical Michael Jackson, but impossible to fully understand unless you witnessed it yourself. Instead of having Sarah escorted back to her seat, he kept her on stage for the remainder of the concert. For the next 45 minutes, Sarah sat beside Michael Jackson as he performed the rest of his set. During Beat It, he taught her some simple dance moves she could do from her chair. During The Way You Make Me Feel, he serenaded her personally, making her laugh and blush. And during the final song, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, he helped her clap along to the rhythm. The crowd was mesmerized. They weren't just watching a concert anymore, they were witnessing something unprecedented. A superstar, at the height of his career, sharing his stage with a dying child not as a publicity stunt or a charitable gesture, but as a genuine moment of human connection. When the concert finally ended, Michael didn't take his bow alone. He held Sarah's hand and they bowed together. The standing ovation lasted for 15 minutes. But perhaps the most touching moment came after the cameras stopped rolling and the crowd began to leave. Michael sat with Sarah backstage for another hour, just talking. He gave her his fedora, the same one he'd worn during Billie Jean for hundreds of performances around the world. "This will keep you safe," he told her, placing it gently on her head. "Every time you wear it, remember that you're stronger than anything that tries to hurt you." Sarah kept that fedora with her through every chemotherapy session, every doctor's appointment, every difficult night in the hospital. Her mother later said that Sarah would put on Michael's hat whenever she felt scared and immediately feel braver. 3 months later, against all medical predictions, Sarah's cancer went into remission. Her doctors called it remarkable. Her family called it a miracle. Sarah called it Michael magic. The impact of that night at Wembley extended far beyond Sarah's recovery. Video footage of Michael stopping his concert spread around the world, but more importantly, it changed how Michael Jackson viewed his role as an entertainer. From that night forward, at every concert on every tour, Michael made time to connect with fans who were struggling with illness, poverty, or personal tragedy. The "man in the mirror" moment, as it became known among his crew, established a tradition that continued throughout the rest of Michael's career. At concerts in every city around the world, Michael would identify someone in the audience who needed a moment of hope and find a way to share his stage with them. Years later, when asked about that night at Wembley, Michael Jackson said something that perfectly captured the essence of what happened: "I didn't stop the show that night. Sarah did. She reminded me that sometimes the most important performance is the one that happens when you stop performing." Today, that fedora sits in a place of honor in Sarah's home. She's now in her 40s, a successful teacher, a mother of 3, and a cancer survivor who has been in remission for over 3 decades. She credits that night at Wembley not just with giving her strength to fight her illness, but with teaching her the power of human compassion. Michael Jackson passed away in 2009, but the lesson he taught that night lives on. In a world where entertainment often feels disconnected from real human experience, Michael showed us what happens when you choose connection over performance, when you let your humanity shine brighter than your spotlight. The greatest performances aren't always the ones that follow the script. Sometimes they're the ones that happen when you throw the script away and simply choose to see another person's pain and respond with love. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of human kindness. Subscribe to keep these stories alive, and remember, we all have the power to stop our own show and reach out to someone who needs it. Because sometimes, the most important moment in someone's life happens when a stranger decides to care. The ripple effects of that night continue to this day. Sarah wasn't the only life changed by Michael's spontaneous act of compassion. Hundreds of people who were in the audience that night went on to volunteer at children's hospitals, donate to cancer research, or simply pay more attention to the suffering of others around them. One security guard who witnessed the moment up close later left his job to become a pediatric nurse. A camera operator donated his entire bonus from filming the concert to Great Ormond Street Hospital. Michael Jackson received thousands of letters after that concert, but none meant more to him than the one Sarah sent 6 months later. It was a simple drawing in crayon showing 2 stick figures holding hands on a stage, with the words, "Thank you for seeing me," written in a child's handwriting underneath. That drawing stayed pinned to the wall in Michael's home studio for the rest of his life. Whenever he was struggling with the pressures of fame, the demands of being a global superstar, or doubts about whether his music truly mattered, he would look at that picture and remember why he did what he did. Michael Jackson didn't just entertain the world. He showed us how to be human. And that night at Wembley, in front of 72,000 people, he proved that the smallest gesture can create the biggest change.